Hey guys, this video is not for everybody. This video is for people who are interested in my opinions on production and stuff like that. Um, when it comes to production, listening to a community is part of being a producer. And listening to a community is really difficult. I'm not gonna lie. It's very difficult to listen to a community because there's a lot of barking and crying going on, and those people who are all barking and crying kind of drown out those who actually have something to say. So, finding those who actually have something worthwhile to say is a needle in a haystack. Trying to sift through all the barking and all the crying and all the screams and all the pleas. Being a producer, trying to listen to a community, is kind of like subjecting yourself to a small form of hell. And you're trying to figure out how to make that hell less hellish for all the people in that community. Now, forgive me for shedding light on this, but maybe you'll thank me later on in life for shedding light on this. You see, Catholicism, Catholicism, yeah, I know. I was indoctrinated into Catholicism really young. I got out of it. Thank God. That just kind of came out. Catholicism is really good at manipulating societies. They figured out how to manipulate societies very well, and they did it with these 7 deadly sins. How did they do it with the 7 deadly sins, you ask? Well, you see, back in the day when Catholics were actually devout and did what they were told, they would visit this thing called the confessional box. And one priest would sit in the confessional box all day listening to everybody's pleas and gripes and cries, and he would have this little tablet right next to him. You see, it says greed, envy, lust, burgers, pride, sloth, and rage quitting. All right. And when one person would tell their story, he would deduce himself what category that story falls under, whether they were suffering with greed, envy, lust, burgers, pride, sloth, rage quitting. So, pardon me here, trying to write and do this video at the same time. One person tells a story about greed, one guy comes in and tells him a little bit about envy, some dude tells him how he wants to bang his neighbor's wife, and then I come in here and tell him about how I shove my face full of burgers all the time, and then this dude tells him about pride, and someone's like, sloth, I'm lazy, and this dude's like, I got a problem with being angry all the time, rage quitting and shit. And it goes like that throughout the day, and he's not always going to have a story about greed. He's going to have a couple stories about lust and envy, that's for sure. And he's certainly going to be having a few visits from people shoving too many burgers in their face. Maybe one prideful person, a couple slothful people there, and the rage quitters. So by the end of the week, or by the end of the month, their tablet kind of looks like that. By the end of the week, because on Sunday they need to have a sermon. All right. By Sunday, they need to have a lecture or an essay written up to speak to the congregation. Now, this essay or lecture may not necessarily speak to everybody. It's not necessarily going to speak to the greedy person because there's only one of them. It's not necessarily going to speak to the envy or lustful person, but there's only a couple of them. Same for the pride and the slothful person. But you know what? There's a bunch of people shoving burgers in their faces. There's a bunch of people rage quitting all over the fucking place. So that's what his sermon has to be about. All right? I'm sorry that, we ignored the greedy freaking person that you're really angry about. I'm sorry that we ignored the envy and lustful people that you think we're ignoring. We're not. We're trying to talk to the community and address what we think we are seeing most of. Problem is, there ain't no confessional box anymore. People are too afraid to jump into the confessional box. People too afraid to be judged for the story that they went through. All right? They have no idea that the story they went through just might help somebody else. All right? They're too self-absorbed in their own head to go into the confessional box and say, hey, you know what? I fucked up. And I did this. And I hope I get forgiven for it. You know what? It takes a lot of balls to do that. To go in, throw yourself at the mercy of somebody, say, I fucked up. I hope I'm forgiven. Not a lot of people have that. I hope people start growing some balls to do that. It might actually start, helping our communities, and it might actually start helping the people upstairs, like the developers and the authorities and the governments, actually figure out what the fuck is going on down here in our society. Thanks, guys. We'll see you later.